going to do some factoring by grouping. And you've already had several factoring by grouping problems. So here's a couple more chances for you to get some examples. Now in question number 9, we now have 3 pieces instead of 2, which you're used to seeing. So can someone tell me, is there something that makes all of these, oh, I have that backwards, have something in common? Grace, what do they all have in common?
The variables.
What about the variables?
U and
Stage
V.
fright.
U and V. The variables.
Okay,
And
so
also 2.
So we are also we have U's and V's in all of them. Okay. What else do we see that is common? Izzy? We see U minus 2V. We see the U minus 2V in every piece. So in other words, we're multiplying 3U times U and negative 2V. We're multiplying V times U and negative 2V. And finally, what number do we have here? What are we multiplying U minus 2V in this case? Boy, this time, Jonas?
1.
1. The number 1. So that's being multiplied here. Now, you can bet that when we're factoring by grouping, the binomial that we see show up, in this case 3 times, is going to be in the answer. So right away, I know that I'm going to have U minus 2V. And that's pretty obvious and pretty intuitive why that's going to be in the answer, because it shows up in all 3 cases. But what are we multiplying U minus 2V by? Aiden?
3U plus V.
Hold on a second, I can't write that fast. 3U
Plus V.
plus V. And so hold on a second. So the 3U is here.
Yes.
The V is here, okay?
And then plus 1.
Plus 1. And the 1 shows up here. All right. So really, it wasn't any more difficult when we had 3 pieces than when we had 2. Just means instead of having a binomial times another binomial, we have a binomial times a trinomial. All right. Let's take a look at number 15. Do we have the same condition that we did in problem 9? Do we have an identical term in a binomial? Close it. Like we did in problem 9. Charlie's shaking his head now. Trace?
Well, you have V minus 3 and 3 minus V, and they're just flipped.
They're flipped, right. Now, incidentally, if I had V plus 3 and over here V, 3 plus V, could I just switch the order? Yeah, because addition is commutative, and the order doesn't matter in addition, but the order does matter in subtraction. So we can't just flip one of these 2 things. So I want to take you back to an earlier problem. All right. So I'm taking you back to this problem here that we saw yesterday. And I believe everyone understood that we could group this problem into 2 different pieces. And we can clearly see that there is a greatest common monomial inside this group. What is it? A. All right. It might draw at some point in my lifetime. There we go. So A, and so we said A times A minus 3B. And over here we said C, so we had plus C times A minus 3B. Right? So everyone understood that we could factor out a greatest common monomial here. Is everyone with me so far? Okay. So let's go back to the problem we had before. Is there something that I could factor out of this group that would get the signs to flip inside the parentheses? Unfortunately for us, the answer is yes. Yes, that's right, Luca. Any takers on this one? Julia? Let's factor out a negative 1. Very insightful. All right, so what is 3 divided by negative 1? Negative 3. Okay. What is 3 divided by negative 1? That's negative 3. What is negative v divided by negative 1? Positive v. Oh. It flipped. It did. I know, it's totally
That is
math magical. You are filled with wonder currently. All right. So now we've gotten back to the pattern that we've seen before, where we have the same binomial being multiplied by 2 different monomials. So what is this going to factor into?
I have a question.
Okay, let's factor it, and then we'll take the question afterwards, okay? So let's finish the question. Let's see, Jameson had his hand up and didn't get called on. So what is this going to factor to?
so it's gonna be u minus 3.
And here's the u, here's the minus 3.
Yeah, and then times v minus 3.
All right. Questions. I'll take questions.
Oh yes. Okay. So how did you know you could do negative 1?
How did I know? That's a great question. If I multiply or divide by a negative number, that means the sign is going to flip. And that's what I need. I need the sign to flip. I need it to go from positive 3 to negative 3 and negative v to positive v. And so if I have a case where I have the same terms, the opposite terms, I will always factor out a negative 1, and that's going to get me what I need. Okay?
You'll be picked up at 3 today in your regular spot.
That's embarrassing. Don't be late. Regular spot, 3 o'clock, Mr. Regalato.
You're featured in the videos.
All right. So, are there any last questions for factoring by grouping? Okay.